What's up, guys? Today we're going to be looking at the Korean League Season 1 Finals. This is effectively Korea's version of a Pokemon TCG Regionals, where they have 5 of these every single year, which then leads them to their national championships, and their point-based system qualifies them to the World Championships. So these are very big deals, as there are only 5 regional championships for them, or Korean leagues, each individual season. So today we're going to be looking at the finals of a Korean league. We're going to watch it together. I'm going to keep giving you guys more coverage on some of these Eastern tournaments that players don't really get a chance to look at. If you guys enjoy this kind of content, please like and subscribe. We're going to jump right into the game. The production value already looks pretty insane for a tournament like this. I would love to go play in Korea one of these days. We have a top player from Japan, Takuto, on the left. Has many world's accomplishments here and there. The player on the right is unknown to me, but the matchup is Mega Absol up against Flareon. This is in the Phantasmal Flames format. It looks like, let's take a look at the prize cards. We see that one of Lively Stadium for Takuto is prized. We do see that the Pheasantipity as well as here, and one of the enhanced hammers, not too relevant in this matchup as Mist Energy doesn't actually play a crucial part. We see one Noctowl, an Iono, Grass Energy, and a Fan Rotom here prized from the Eevee player. But as long as they get their Leafeon up and going, I think the matchup's incredibly favored for them. I think once the Eevee is on board, it's very difficult, or the Leafeon's on board, it's very difficult to actually answer it from the Mega Absol player's side. Your best play is like basically go into Kangaskhan and use that as like a big attacker, but at the same time, Carnelian does a ton of damage. And if you overcommit, you can just get two shot by everything pretty much on the EV player's board. So let's go ahead and skip ahead a little bit. Players are set up. Look at this production value. I'm just gonna turn off my camera. I don't think you guys need it. But look at this production value. We have the prize cards on screen at all times, something that I think should definitely be useful. The EV player looks like they went first and just went pass with a Terapagos. Just a Terapagos pass opening. No fan rotom, it looks like. Nothing. Or maybe this is just the start of the game. We'll find out in just a second here. But I believe it was a draw and a pass from the EV player with no fan rotom, which is exactly the break that Takuto does need, because now you can go ahead and power up this Kangaskhan and start swinging for the fences. And you know that there's no Hoot Hoots coming in next turn. You know there's no risk of a Flareon coming in to do big damage to you. You actually have a couple of turns to set up and play the game slowly, which is what you want to do as this Absol player. If the game speeds up, then you don't really get a great chance to play the game. You want the game to be as slow as possible. And Iono coming through, so not necessarily what you want to be doing and giving your opponent 6 brand new cards, but you kind of need to play your own game as well. You need to find this Turbo Energize. Maybe there was merit to just waiting for a little bit longer and maybe retreating and drawing 2 first. See if you hit an Arven or a Turbo Energize. Let's say you hit the Arven or Turbo Energize this turn. You could actually just, or you could just pass for the turn, maybe play for like an E-Switch, play for a pivot of some sort, maybe just take your free 2 cards and just chill for a turn. And then the next turn, you can just power up your board. But now Poffin hits the board. There's no Fan Rotom threat, which is very beneficial. So this Poffin's going to grab ourselves probably 2 Hoot Hoots. But this is where the Eevee comes in as well. Like, you can nest ball for the Eevee, you can nest ball for the EVGX. You can get this ball rolling. There it is. There's EVEX, sorry, EVEX hitting the board. A Crispin coming in through too, so a ton of damage is going to be dished out by this Terapagos immediately off the rip. So this Kangaskhan that's in the active spot is already under threat, already under fire, of a ton of damage coming through. We're going to see the lightning and we're going to see the water to the hand. Crown Opal also a potential play here from the Eevee player, because they can go ahead and use Crown Opal here, do 180, and the Kangaskhan can't even touch it, meaning that we need a boss plus countercatcher play to actually make a play. Fez hitting the board as well. We're just going to go ahead and do the 120. No Crown Opal here, choosing not to commit the Crystal here, saying that, hey, this Crystal might be more useful on something like a Flareon or a Leafeon, so I can use Carnelian or Verdant Storm. Some free cards being picked up here. The Arven is here to go ahead and power up the second Kangaskhan if we need to. But the really scary thing here is if once this Kangaskhan does power up the second Kangaskhan, the first Kangaskhan is basically going down for free. And if you guys didn't know, Mega Pokemon give up 3 prize cards. So giving up 3 prize cards in this situation is actually very scary. And Takuto will be on the back foot. There's one Kangaskhan's going to have to carry his game. And we don't know if that's actually going to be a real possibility that we're going to be able to do. We're going to be able to trolley out some more Pokemon here. Getting our board set up. Now, once the 3 prize cards are taken, from the EV player's side, then the board gets completely opened up for infinite possibilities. So the question is, how can we, abuse that? There's 2 Monkey Dories and a Latias hitting the board here, just saying, hey, I'm going to go back in real quick. We're going to attach the Dark Energy to the Monkey Dory, choosing to retreat into the Monkey Dory, moving the 30 off the Kangaskhan first to the active, just softening it up a little bit. And we're going to go ahead and sacrifice this Monkey Dory to power up a Kangaskhan here. We're going to go ahead and use the TM Turbo Energize, saying that, hey, I can't give you these 3 prize cards. I need to give you a 1 prizer here. Even if this Monkey Dory is very crucial in my setup to, keep the chain of attacks going. I have to make sure that I don't let you, get a free roll for 3 prize cards, which is, absolutely crucial because if there is 3 prize cards taken, then the game just instantly ends. We're gonna go ahead and see the Noctowl coming through, grabbing ourselves any pieces here. We can commit to a full-blown attack and just power up our entire board here, but also there's always a play for the Crown Opal, like I mentioned earlier, and just committing your grass energy for turn. There is a boss and a CC and Nest Ball in hand. So we don't actually have the potential to go for the one-shot here on anything, but we can just bring up the Kangaskhan that's already been pre-benched and pure powered up and just smack into it pretty aggressively, and just kind of go from there. There is the Fez on the board too, so as long as the Kangaskhan isn't knocking out the Fez, we get a lot of card draw off this too. So with Stadium plus Nest Ball and maybe like a Puffin, we already use our Puffin actually, but Stadium plus Ultra Ball, here we're gonna grab these two. We're gonna grab the Nest Ball, probably grabbing ourselves another Eevee piece, or more than likely the Mew here. We're gonna be able to go Stadium, we're gonna Ultra Ball our whole hand away, or we're gonna boss up the Kang, we're gonna be able to draw one card with the Mew. We're looking for the one shot here. We're looking for the 210. A very ambitious play here. Looking for as deep as we can go. We're going to go ahead and Ultra Ball away for the second Noctowl, committing all of our Noctowl pieces, actually, saying that, hey, we don't need any more Noctowls for the turn. We're going to get double Nest Ball, guaranteeing the knockout here. We're going to get Hoot Hoot. We're going to Nest Ball again. We're going to grab probably another Hoot Hoot just to be safe, yeah. And this is going to get 210 damage onto the board, wiping out this Kangaskhan, going to a 0-card hand, but we're taking 2 prize cards, and the bottom 2 prize cards do happen to be a Puffin, a Fan Rotom, and either we take the Crispin or the Iona here. Looks like the Crispin has been taken. 2 Puffins in this list is also very unique. Definitely something that is built purely for consistency in a best of 1 setting. Now Takuto has a mountainous task ahead of him. His opponent did go down to a 0-card hand, and you know that you have to basically make a play here, but how do you actually answer this board state? You have to Arven, you have to set up, you have to get the Charm, you have to make your Kangaskhan as big as possible, and then in the following turns, you need these Monkey Dories to basically put in overtime. These Monkey Dories have to be putting in overtime, have to be putting a lot of damage onto your opponent's side of the board, and next turn, you need to find an Iona, you need to put your opponent in a spot where a Noctowl doesn't actually give them 2 back-to-back attackers, because they are going low, they are going as low as they can. There is missed energy hitting the board as well, so not a ton to write home about here, but just a clean knockout. We had the 30 damage already pre-prepared from last turn. Now the Eevee player does get access to both Mew and access to Fez. Gonna be able to see a lot of cards here. A Puffin coming through, probably grabbing just a regular Eevee from the deck if it is still in the deck, which we know it's not prized. So the Eevee is certainly there. 2 EVs actually. We're gonna go ahead and grab both, or just one for now, and then leave the open spot, see where it takes us. We're gonna grab keeping the Eevee that can evolve on the immediate turn is actually very smart in the deck. So we're gonna go ahead and see what the rest of this turn entails. We're gonna go ahead and Crispin preemptively, powering up probably the Eevee here. With the Crystal, we can attack with Flareon with Carnelian here, doing 280 damage, or we can just attack with 131st attack damage and power up our other Eevee, putting ourselves in a spot where we're guaranteed to win the game with Carnelian or the Storm. Fan Rotom hitting the board as well, taking 2 off the top. Fan Rotom also doing 70 here is not a bad amount of damage. Fez for 3, seeing 3 more cards. Looking for any way to get to Noctowl. We see the Flareon hitting the board. The pieces are all coming together. There is no second Terra Pokemon in play, however, if this Flareon does go down. So a couple fortunate heads from Takuto later. This could be an issue for our Eevee player. We're going to go ahead and swing and power up probably Mew, honestly. Like if I'm here, I would just power up Mew and try to look for the play and flip, but it looks like we're just powering up the Eevee on the bench, putting ourselves in a spot where the Crystal plus another Eevee piece can win the game. But here, if Takuto can get an Iona plus a fortunate knockout on the active, we're in a really, really good spot. Or we can counter catcher up the Fez, Lively Stadium, move 60, go for the flip, and Iona. If we do all of that as well, our opponent goes down to a very low card hand. We're putting them on an energy for Carnelian, but we also can move 60 off our active, so it goes to 70 damage remaining. That's actually still perfectly enough math, right? Yeah, that's perfectly enough still. With the Lively Stadium, it wouldn't be enough, so if we bump with Lively, we'd be still okay. But here, bumping also means that the board gets cleaned up with the 2 Noctowls and the Rotom. So it's a very tricky spot, but you need to put the Lively Stadium down, which we do see in Takuto's hand, is here. We're going to be able to Nest Ball using the Area 0 as well, effectively getting out this Yveltal into play, knowing that we can corner lock if we need to for at least a turn. But our opponent hasn't used any of their switch effects, and we have no way to actually fish for them. So the matchup gets very difficult here, because if we do try to go for this play and we miss if they have a switch or they have the way to get to Noctowl, it's just pretty much going to be lights out. Like a switch or Kieran plus the energy, which just puts them in a spot where they can win. So I think we have to go for the gear here. We're going to move the 30 onto the Eevee. putting ourselves in a spot where this EV is going to be threatened. Um, I would probably move 30 to the active and try to flip, unless we're going to go for the Evital lock here, which I think is also perfectly reasonable. We're going to go ahead and go for the boss's orders on the Pheasantipity. We're going to go for the Evital lock, doing 20 damage and putting ourselves on a spot by saying, hey, you need to pivot your active and you need to boss up my Pokemon this turn. And if you can't do both of those things, then I win the game. Or a pivot this turn is completely fine. And if there's two pivots in the deck, then you can do that. So an Ultra Ball coming through, discarding, I think it is a Serrano and a Stadium, getting a Noctowl here, grabbing the Switch and the Crystal. There is the manual switch into the Flareon. We're going to go ahead and attach the Crystal, and a boss's orders is what takes us to game 2. I presume this is game 2. A lot of the Asian tournaments do only play best of 1 in top cut, but I believe that the Korean League is one of the few that plays best of 3 once you've entered the top cut, or even during the Swiss stages. So as we head into game 2, Takuto has to reevaluate his strategy, maybe an early Absol to put a lot of pressure on. But if you do that, the Leafeon does become much more of a threat. But if you can go ahead and go with the Absol early, and even if you are sacking 3 prize cards, maybe it's worth trying to get that switch. Maybe it's worth trying to get that pivot card out of the metagame, or out of the hand. But definitely an uphill battle of a matchup for sure. The Absol deck doesn't really fare well into, this, just because of how powerful the EV deck is setting up and just getting the ball rolling. And we saw a pretty slow start from the EV player as well. No Fan Rotom turn 1, a turn 2 where we just attacked with Terapagos, and turn 3 where we committed 2 Noctowls to basically take out the Kangaskhan. So it wasn't necessarily the best situation for them. And maybe we could have just left the thing in the active. So 2 Nest Balls, a Hoot Hoot, a Fan Rotom. We see 2 Stretchers gone into our. We'll see the prizes in a second. We see the Cornerstone being opened here, which doesn't bode super well because the Cornerstone can get knocked out by pretty much any of the EV lines. We're going to go ahead and Fan Rotom here. Grabbing all of these pieces. Everyone knows that the Absol deck doesn't want Iono turn 1, or they play very few copies of Iono anyway, so their Ionos have to be pretty reactive. So you can pretty aggressively go ahead and get some of these pieces, and knowing that there's 2 of the baby EVs, this is a perfect setup with all the EVs here. Now, the only thing we're missing is a Terra Pokemon, but if we just have a Terra Pokemon in hand, it's not a big deal. We're going to go ahead and draw for the turn. We're going to see an attachment to the active and a pass from Takuto. No supporter, nothing. He has a double Flareon hitting the board. Flareon, unfortunately, doesn't have an ability. So this does mean that if the Flareon gets to Carnelian this turn, it means that this Cornerstone Ogerpon is going to be going down. We're going to see the Balloon plus a Crystal. We're going to see the Crispin for a very swift 2 cards. Takuto hoping that maybe the Balloon, or maybe the Balloon is prized. Maybe he has to use a Turo. Maybe he has to use a Switch this turn. That way we can fish for the other one and maybe try to keep retreat locking the opponent here. But the Balloon is in the deck, and the Turo is one of the bottom prize cards. So the Carnelian coming through, just taking the 2 prize cards, accelerating the game. There is the Pheasantipity to draw 3 cards. Carnelian can't be used 2 turns in a row, but we still are in a spot where, I don't know, Takuto doesn't have anything in his hand. He doesn't have anything to play on. He doesn't have an Evital. He doesn't have anything to even lock something. We're going to CC up the second Flareon, and Absol coming down and passing. The second Flareon being committed also means there's no Leafeon threat, which is quite important in the situation individually. And there's the Ultra Ball. We're trying to burn the Switch. We're trying to burn more cards. We're going to go ahead and see this. We're going to go hit the boss and the Switch. So we're just putting on a ton of aggression, a ton of pressure here. We're going to go ahead and switch into the other Flareon. We're going to go ahead and boss up the Absol, and there is the concession. Just a hit. What do you do if the Carnelian comes in, hits you for 280? This Absol is already threatened. There's nothing much you can do, right? You can't even power up another attacker if you're Takuto, and the hand is miserable. You can't draw any cards. So just a swift concession there, and the match ends just like that. Looks like they're showing off the players lists here. The production value is also crazy. Look at this. This regional is absolutely bonkers to watch. This is so cool. I would love to play in one of these coming up in this next year. Maybe I will. We'll see. Let's take a look at these players lists. I think they show them off in a second here. The champions list here does play the Leafeon, like I mentioned earlier, the Wellspring, Ogerpon, 3 copies of Crispin. So it's been pretty fortunate that none of our Crispins were really in a bad situation. We have Kieran, Turo, Switch, and Balloon. So there's a lot of, it looks like, is that 2 switches? Is that 2 switches in this list? Yes, 2 switches, a Kieran, a Turo. So we were never actually going to be in threat of getting locked. We were just never getting locked. There's 4 copies of Stadium. So a very aggressive Stadium split here with the Jamming Tower and the Gravity Mountain. So Jamming Tower plus an attack also would have done quite a bit of damage. We have the Black Belt as well to bolster our damage. So having Black Belt would have put us in a spot to actually also one-shot some things. Only 1 copy of Iono, so do pricing that Iono game 1. was a little bit scary because we didn't have access to another Iono or disruption. But the Serrano and just doing our own setup seems pretty aggressive. We have the Trumpet as well to basically power up an attacker later in the game. Now there's no way to E-switch or accelerate any other energy, but basically slapping down like the baby EV that has 50 HP or the EVGX, EVEX plus our Terapagos, you can basically power that up all in one turn, and it becomes an attacker that's a dominant threat. So this list is very greedy, but it is definitely a best of one catered list, it looks like, to tech for pretty much every matchup you want to tech for. And in Swiss Strengths, if you don't really know what's going on, so that is the champions list, showing off the top 4 players, and Takuto getting second place. We have, I don't know, it's very cool to see this production value, and the congratulations to the winner of season 1. I don't know if they earn a Worlds invite or anything like that, but once again, huge congrats. Let me know in the comments if you guys enjoy me putting more coverage on these Eastern events, like the Korean League, the Filipino League, all that kind of stuff. I'll be trying to put more effort into putting those finals up on YouTube for you guys to watch. Thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you guys next time. Peace out.